I live in a small cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere. The next nearest neighborhood is over 4 miles away. One night a few years ago, we got over 1.5 feet of snow overnight, so far from the main roads, and on the weekend, I knew our roads would remain unplowed for quite some time. I went to my outback deck door to look at the snow-draped trees and the still heavily falling flurries and to take some pictures. I had noticed footprints leading to my door, then turning around and leaving. I looked and saw that they came from my neighbor's side and thought that one of their more delinquent kids played a joke as my sledding tube on the railing popped. I decided I'd wait until later as it was too early to call their parents. I went on Facebook, and after scrolling for a bit, I noticed one of my neighbors closer to the entrance posted, "Did someone knock for me or something at my back door?" I immediately called her, talked, and told her I have an idea. I called the first house on the entrance and told him what was going on. He went back and checked, and sure enough, they were there too. Everyone started calling everyone else. I called the family at the far end and they told me there was none there. Then I got a call from my next door neighbor. She called the woman that lives next to the end of the house. She said that there were footprints that led to her door, but none led away. We already called the police at this point, but now we had to call them back and say that it was an emergency now. They told us the roads are still all unplowed and they can't send a plow truck to clear the way as they're a privately owned company. The woman was losing it, so one of the husbands, huge bear of a man across the road from her, texted her to say he was coming over, to invite her over. He came and she left. We put up one of the guy's live feed motion hunting cameras facing all exits. Nothing came out. Around 7 p.m. a plow truck came as well as 3 cop cars. The couple was staying with her and went to her house and stood in the doorway as the police searched. They found nothing. She begged for them to keep looking, so they did. 2 of the cops went into the basement again. This time, only one came up. He took her to the side room and we could hear hysterical crying. By now we were all out there. Me and the few other guys started towards the door when several police confronted us. They told us they found someone hiding under a cover in the opening of a stairwell that she didn't even know existed. A few minutes later, a scruffy man screaming and kicking came out in cuffs and was led away. In his little camp out, they found blankets she just cleaned and put away. In the room next to hers, she stayed in other people's houses for a long time before going back. Even then, she wouldn't stay alone. She sold the house next summer. He turned out to be a thrill-seeking junkie who was on probation for assaulting against a family member. The cops told us that they felt like he didn't want to stay in his apartment after a fight with his roommate and drove off in his roommate's car from the country over and got stuck in our unplowed roads. And that is why you always make sure your doors are locked. Not paranormal, but this is a lot creepier to me now than when it was when it happened. This actually just came to my attention yesterday while hanging out with my grandparents. My mom and I lived in their current house for the majority of my childhood. I would always wake up and hear these really weird noises, like someone walking around or heavy breathing in my room. I slept in a room that was in the middle of the house, so I had no windows, and it was completely pitch black at night. It always gave me a small adrenaline rush, but I was never really that scared. There was one night I was home alone for probably the first time ever, and I was just relaxing in the TV room. In that room, you could see the back door, with the stairs either to the basement or the kitchen on the opposite side. I'm watching TV when I hear a quick stomping coming from the basement. It scared the shit out of me, obviously, and I turned over to look. All I saw after that was the lights flickering in the kitchen on and off, and more crazy footsteps to the front of the house and then a front door slamming. Likely the scariest experience I had in that house, but there were others as well. Well, I was telling my grandparents all about it yesterday, and it got awkwardly quiet. They proceeded to tell me that my aunt had a crazy ex-boyfriend around at that time. It was apparently very common for him to break into the house at any and all hours and just hang out in the house without anyone knowing. My mom caught him a few times watching her sleep, and on several occasions he was found asleep in the basement. Then, all of these really strange occurrences started to make a lot of sense. Then I realized there were several times I'd fall asleep in that TV room or in the living room and wake up somewhere else, and my mom would claim she hadn't moved me. This shit makes my skin crawl every time I have new memories of it. He's in jail now, luckily, but goddamn do I wish it had been something unexplainable instead of what it actually was. My family moved into a condo my freshman year of high school. It was the newest development and in the rural part of my town. The first month or so went smoothly, but after a while, my parents started talking about weird stuff that was happening around the house. The lights would fixture and stop working all of a sudden. Even my dad just had to replace them. Upon further inspection, they found out the lights had actually been unscrewed and left loose inside the fixture. And these were the lights on the ceiling that kind of looked like a boob, so it's semi-labor intensive to reach the actual bulb. A few more months went by and they were mostly uneventful. And then my mom moved into my bedroom. She had been sleeping on an air mattress, and one of the first nights she claimed that she woke up at 3 a.m. to the feeling of someone sitting on the end of her bed. Another night, she woke up feeling like someone was trying to pull the blanket off of the foot of her bed. A couple weeks later, she woke up to the sound of the window shade hitting the wall as if someone had lifted it up above her head and then let it drop back down. The next night, she double checked to see if the windows were closed and locked. They were. She woke up to the sound of the shades again and the bedroom door slamming shut. I was kind of skeptical about all these stories just because I never woke up to any of these, but I sleep like a rock and the house gave me weird vibes anyway, so I kept an open mind. Then one night, after my mom had officially abandoned my room, I woke up around 3 to 4 a.m. with sleep paralysis. It was the first time it had ever happened to me, so I didn't know what was going on. I was too busy panicking to look around the room. When I finally calmed down, I noticed this shadow on the foot of my bed. It was a distinct outline of a tall, thin man with a wide brim hat. I just kind of looked at him for a while, trying to process what was in front of me, and he didn't really move. He just stood there and looked back. I eventually closed my eyes and tried to go back to sleep. In the morning, I told my mom what happened, and she pretty much immediately scheduled an appointment with a medium. To put a long story short, the woman ended up telling us the man I saw was a farmer who owned the land that we lived on, and he was pissed that a bunch of strangers were squatting on his property. So I guess that he was trying to spook the people into leaving? I never knew any of the neighbors, but I wonder if they had to deal with the same shenanigans. Ghost farmer want these kids off his lawn, I guess.